Last summer, I was driving along the Blue Ridge Parkway with my son and daughter, and I pulled over so that we could take a picture with the Blue Ridge in the background. Now, as I was setting up the tripod and the camera and getting ready to take the picture, two of my kids were out in the woods, rummaging around in the underbrush, looking for whatever unfortunate frog or salamander they could get their hands on. And I finished setting up the camera, and I looked over, and I could see my daughter, Karis, clearly about to ingest something she had found on the floor of the forest. Now, like any modern parent, I'm imagining a trip to the emergency room and then a life of shame as the father whose daughter poisoned herself on his watch. And as I'm just about to intervene and jump over and say, "Stop, stop, what are you doing?" she turns around and says, "Dad, can I eat these strawberries?" And I said, "How do you know those are strawberries?" And she said, "Well, they've got the little seeds on the outside and a little green star where they attach to the plant, and the leaves have these little spikes on the edges, and the plant has little ropes coming off of it where it's trying to grow new plants." "Can I eat it?" "Sure. Can I take a picture first?" And I realized that I had never sat down and told her about the taxonomy of a strawberry plant. Never had it happen before that I had sat her down and said, "Look, strawberry plants have 3 leaves, they've got serrated edges, they have vines that come off the side, seeds are on the outside," all this stuff about what a strawberry plant looks like. But on our little urban farm, well, it's kind of generous to call it a farm, but we don't go to farmers markets or anything, but we do it for fun. We grow lots of things on our little plot in South Central Helena. Last year we harvested pumpkins and squash and beets and chard and raspberries and strawberries and plums and broccoli and eggs and tomatoes and peppers and all kinds of things. And Karis had been caring for this little strawberry patch for some time. And she goes to the strawberry patch every day and looks at it and takes the little vines and puts them where she wants new plants to grow. She comes and tells me excitedly when new little green berries comes out. And then she tells me that, the green berries are turning red. We're going to be able to eat them soon. And I realized that she had learned about the taxonomy of a strawberry plant simply by being exposed to the plant itself. Now, as an instructional technologist at Carroll College, which is my job, I think about learning all the time, and I realized that what had happened is, if we presume to teach someone something, we need to have them exposed to the information that they want to learn over and over and over again, and they need to think carefully about the things that they want to learn in order to learn them. And so at first glance, these two pictures might look really different to you. The one on the top is my yard at my little urban farm, and the one on the bottom is a classroom that we have at Carroll College in O'Connell. And this classroom has whiteboard walls all the way around. It's got movable furniture. It's got 7 projectors that you can get to wirelessly or by plugs. And it's got 3 tiers of space to learn. So what this is kind of the closest thing that we have to the holodeck from Star Trek, right? And what's important about this room is that, like I said, I never had Karis sit down and memorize all these things about a strawberry plant. She simply was exposed to them over and over again. She didn't have to have that frustrating learning experience where you have to hold a bunch of facts in your head while you grasp a concept for the first time. She knew where the strawberry plant was, and she visited it over and over and over again. And that process, simply being exposed to the information and thinking about it carefully, looking at it every day, helped her learn something that might have taken a long time to learn in a more traditional classroom. Now, let me tell you another story. We have a plum tree in our yard. And one day, Karis came to me after thinking carefully about this plum tree, and she said, "Dad, the plum tree is dying. There are these bugs on it, and the leaves are turning yellow and brown, and I'm worried that we're not going to have any plums this year." And so I said, "Well, we better get out there and get rid of those bugs." And so I looked at them, and I wanted to make sure, like any modern parent, that I knew what I was dealing with. So I went to the internet and found out that these bugs were ladybug larvae. Ladybug larvae are carnivorous. They don't eat leaves. What do ladybug larvae eat? Aphids. If you look at the picture up there, the close-up of the leaf, you might be able to barely see the tiny little black dots on there. Those are the aphids that are actually eating the leaves. And we realized that if we took all those ladybug larvae off of that tree, we were going to make the problem worse. So Asher, my son, suggested that we go around and round up all the ladybug larvae that we could find and put them on the tree. That's what we spent the rest of the afternoon doing. Now, what's important about this is that if you want someone to learn something, you have to give them the opportunity to fail multiple times, over and over and over again, get feedback on those failed attempts, and then adjust what they do in the future based on that feedback. Now, these rooms are ideally built for that. You can see here that we have the space to put information all up on the walls. We have the opportunity for the teachers to watch the students work with that information and correct them along the way. This is the difference between getting a paper that has a bunch of red ink on it and having your teacher stand beside you as you're typing it on the screen on the wall and say, you need to do this, you need to include a citation here, you need to use better grammar here, you need to do X, Y, and Z. You'll notice this student over here, I don't know if you can see it from there, but the one that's working with the diagram on the wall, it says incorrect, try again. That's what he's doing. He's working with an online homework program in the presence of a teacher and actively learning through mistakes. That's extremely important. Now, let me tell you one more story. We've got chickens at our little urban farm, and I like to think that if my chickens were in a punk rock band, this would be like the picture on their album, you know? And so in the summer of 2015, my chickens booked a date on the Helena Chicken Trek. They made an appearance. And what the Chicken Trek is, it's where people go around in Helena to learn about keeping chickens from people that have them. Now, Asher, my son, who was 6 years old at the time, has known these chickens from chick to pullet to adult. He knows them in and out. So he was the perfect chicken ambassador. He was out there with a little basket of eggs, and every time people came by, he said, come here, let me tell you about my chickens. And I walked over to see him explaining reproduction to two very surprised guests. Now, this is not as bad as it seems. What happened was one of his chickens, Buff, a Buff Orpington that he named Buff when he was 3, was broody that day. She was sitting in the coop and she was not going out, and this was really, it looks like it's a really bad thing. But he was explaining to them that, see, Buff has this instinct to sit on an egg and keep it warm until it hatches because she wants to have a baby chicken. But the problem is, and he said this verbatim, that egg does not have enough genetic material to actually become a chicken. This is a 6-year-old. Now, why is that? Well, we only have hens. We don't have any roosters. Just like a human child needs a mother and a father to be a full human child, so a chicken needs to have its egg fertilized to become a full chicken. Now, what I realized is that this is part of a big system of knowledge that helps him remember these facts. These aren't independent facts. If I had sat down and told him over the kitchen table, hey, chickens have these instincts and they need to be fertilized and eggs, he is unlikely to remember that. Much less is he likely to spit it back out as an answer to a question more than a year after I had answered this question for him offhandedly as a stream of, 5-year-old questions that you get asked when you're walking around in the yard. So what's important about this is that we remember things and we can use information better if they're part of an integrated system of knowledge. And this is the beginning of what I like to think of as both a step backwards and a step forwards in education. A step backwards in the sense that we're moving away from the factory model of education where students are thought of as empty vessels to be filled with facts, and we're moving to a place where students are thought of as future members of society that need to gain skills that are going to have value to us as a whole together. Now, in order to do that, we need to have an integrated sense of the different disciplines that we use. Not only do we need to give our students a chance to iterate like they do at Apple and Google and Facebook when they code things and they don't work and they try again until they have the most valuable products in the world, but we also need to teach them to think about things as a cohesive system. And this is a picture of our library. Now, libraries, as we move into the future, are losing their books. And a lot of people are very worried about this because they say libraries are about books. Well, libraries are becoming more spaces that are like learning commons instead of places where you just go to find a book. They're places where you can literally and metaphorically look from whiteboard to whiteboard and make connections between subjects that you wouldn't make connections otherwise. If there are walls in the classrooms and you think about math and science and language and literature as discrete subjects to be separated by these cinder block walls, you don't get that big picture that we need to give the next generation of learners. And let me tell you, these kids that are coming through school today are going to be dealing with the most complex and daunting problems that we have seen in generations. And we as educators owe it to them to give them this integrated sense of understanding of the world so that they can tackle those problems that are landing on their laps. That's what urban farming taught me about learning environments. Thank you.